Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with a review of Beyond Two Souls. So this was a game I had actually been pretty hesitant to play. I knew a few spoilers going in, including one plot thing that just made me really not want to play it. I won't talk about that until the spoiler section. And I was under the impression that there weren't really a lot of endings, that there were like two, which is not exactly the case, but this wasn't a game that super appealed to me, but I had gotten it for Christmas like a year or two ago, and I finally got around to playing it. I have it for the PS3 version. So you play as Jodie throughout many years of her life, and this sort of entity, spiritual entity that she's connected with called Aiden. And I can't really say too much about the story beyond that. So let's just jump right into the review. And I want to talk about gameplay first, because my biggest problem with this game is the motion controls. And I want to be fair here that this isn't really the fault of the game itself, although I do think if you have motion controls, it should be something you can turn off. But I can't fault the people that made the game for using a feature of the controllers. The only real complaint I could have is that the motion controls, I don't think you ever get a tutorial for them. So the problem with the motion controls is something I didn't realize. A lot of third-party controllers don't have that capability. So the first two motion controls you get come out of nowhere, so you're probably going to fail them. But they're at least, like, if you mess up, you mess up. The next, every single one you get after that, if you don't pass the motion control, you can't progress the game. You're just stuck there. And my PS3 controller is a third-party controller. It doesn't work. I mean, PS3 and 4 controllers are just so expensive, especially if you have to buy them new like I do. And there are even a lot of fake ones being passed off as real, so too many people have third-party controllers, so I really wanted to mention how big a deal this is. So, like, I even have a few PS4 controllers, one of which I could not sync to the system. It kept asking me for, like, a passcode or something, and they're, like, I looked online, and none of those passcodes worked for me, so I don't know. But, like, the other controllers, like, I tried, the PS4 controllers, they didn't work either. So I did, the only solution for this that I found is to play with the touch app that comes with this game, and it's not my preferred way to play, especially in terms of like if you're trying to move with the touch app, like just walk forward, it's ridiculously hard. So the motion controls really brought the game down for me, just because I had to constantly, like, switch. Because I would try and get away with using the controller when I could, but then suddenly a motion prompt would show up out of nowhere, and I would have to exit the game, start up the app. Well, you don't have to exit the game, you have to go back to the main menu, and then start up the app, and then restart the game, and the load times on the title screen, or on the chapter screen or whatever, they're ridiculously long. Most of the time anyway, so that was not fun, having to constantly switch back and forth, and you would get the motion control prompts at really unexpected times, so definitely not something I enjoyed. And then you have the QTEs. When you are fighting, you are supposed to push the joystick in the direction of Jodie's body in order to make her counter whatever. And For most of the game, if you mess up the QTEs, it doesn't really matter. I think it does matter at, like, the very end, but, like, you can't die in this game. I mean, you can't die as part of, like, messing up a QTE early on. Something will always save you. Which is probably a good thing, because I would have died a lot of times otherwise. But so this doesn't really work right, especially when she's, like, punching and kicking. It's very hard to tell what you're supposed to press. That is one advantage that the touch app has, because when you're using the touch app, it will show arrows on the screen. I think there was maybe one or two times where the arrows were inaccurate, and swiping that way did not work, but overall, definitely better for the fight scenes. another QTE, not even, it's not even QTE, another gameplay thing I had an issue with was, so there's white dots on stuff you can interact with, and these can be hard to see, but for me, the bigger problem was that I didn't know what I was supposed to do with them. I got stuck trying to open a freaking door super early in the game because I didn't know what you were supposed to do. I was so confused. Let's see what else gameplay-wise. Gameplay can be kind of inconsistent. This also ties into story where the entity, Aiden, has limitations that he doesn't have other times. Also, the camera angle is a nightmare, especially when you're playing as him, and sometimes you will not be able to see. You'll be spinning around just trying to figure out what to do. It got very frustrating very fast. Also, I had some weird problems walking in the early chapters, and I'm not sure if that was just my controller acting up, because like that was separate from the issues with the app. Let's see, anything else gameplay-wise? Oh yes, I almost forgot. I don't even know what to call it. Aiden has a couple other abilities. He can channel spirits by manipulating a flame thing so it like blows into Jodie's face. And then there's also like a healing thing he can do where you have to hold orbs on certain positions of a person's body. These with the controller are a nightmare because you use the joysticks to control two different orbs. And if you like let go of one of the joysticks, the orb goes back to where it started. So it's very hard to get even one of them on the spot where you need them to be, and then you have to get the other one there too, and then you have to hold them there, and it was horrible. The healing was by far the worst out of the two mini games. It's slightly easier again with the touch app because you only have to do the one orb, so that's way better. And yeah, when you have two of them, they get mixed up all the time, and you cannot tell what you're doing. Now, thankfully, none of these events are timed, because if they were, just game over. Story is really hard to rate. Like, the story in PS3 is told in non-chronological order. And I believe the PS4 version of the game has a remix mode where a lot of the chapters are in chronological order. There is a reason for them to be out of order, though, so that's the way I decided to play. I mean, not that I had a choice, but like I could have gotten the PS4 version, I guess. So I decided to play them the way that they were originally released. And like on one hand, I could see it potentially being interesting, you know, with like, oh, this is how she ended up in this situation, or, you know, just these little snippets of her life. But it ends up just feeling extremely disjointed, and it's hard to get attached to any of the characters because we just don't see enough of them. And I'm not sure how much of that is necessarily because the chapters are out of order, but just like even when we're with these characters, we don't spend a lot of time with them. And I do think that part of the problem is that like when we're jumping around through time, we don't return to them early enough. And there's like this incredibly forced romance in the game too, where you see a scene where this character is nasty and horrible, and then the next scene is years later and we're trying to like prepare for a date. And this is a really weird scene. Like, maybe it could work in a movie, but from a gameplay perspective, you have given me no reason to be nice to this character or to want to be romantic with them, and they never really do. Like, most of the game, they don't give you any real reason to like this character, and it's like, why did she fall for him again? So stuff like that is a real problem. I did somewhat like the ending. There was one thing about the ending I got that I didn't like, that like most of the other endings have, but like I did think the like ending stretch had some good moments to it. Part of me still thinks this would have worked better as a movie. So it's very hard to rate this game. Like if I try, cause I don't want to judge it for the motion control thing, just because I don't, it's not the game's fault. But, so taking that out of the equation, like, I didn't think it was super fun to play, but I did like some of the story aspects near the end. None of the characters really get enough development. That's pretty much all I can really say. Like, it's not as terrible a game as some people kind of made it seem to be, but I don't think it's super great. I think there were certain choices that could have been made that would make the game better. So with that being said, let's jump into spoilers. And I'm just going to start off by saying, I hate Ryan. Terrible, terrible character. Like, why would they think we like it? Like, the first time we see him is so early on in the game, we're not given a name, and I'm not sure anyone would even remember he was the same guy. And then the next time we see him, he's acting like a complete jerk to us. Like, trying to forcibly drag us off to be enslaved by the government. And that was the thing I had heard about beforehand that, like, made me not want to play the game, because I don't like seeing my characters mistreated, you know? Or anyone mistreated, really, but for me, it's 10 times worse when it's something like the government doing it, because, like, I feel like if you're in a position of power, you should not be abusing that power. And the idea of the government basically enslaving a teenage girl and forcing her into military service, like, this isn't just come work for us behind a desk. This is, you know, sell your life to us. We're going to send you to war zones. You're going to kill people. You're going to be at risk of being killed or tortured. Like, that's a horrifying thing to force onto someone. And yeah, it definitely did not make me like Ryan. And by the time they finally had him apologize and start acting better, he's just like, I love you and I want to be in a relationship with you. And it's like, I'm not in love with you. Like, if he was just like, hey, let's start over, let's let's have dinner or something, maybe I'd have given him a chance. But well, we'll get there. I got the chapter list up here, so we'll skip broken. The experiment. I played it nice as the game would allow me to, because the PS3 version has a glitch where you can't exit out of the experiment until like late. So, like, I tried to return to Jody immediately because I'm not a destructive person. Although I don't get why that woman was freaking out. Like, did no one tell her what this was about? Like, she's part of the DPA, right? So wouldn't she know there's psychic stuff going on here? But she's like, oh my gosh, blocks got knocked over. Like, she was freaking out. Like, does she not know psychics are a thing? The embassy was so freaking hard. I actually restarted this chapter because I didn't want to run out of time. I don't know if you can run out of time. But, like, it would suck to have it be timed when you're just learning how to control Aiden. And I had so much trouble moving as him. But the hardest thing in this chapter was trying to freaking open the bathroom door. Because I could just not figure out what to do with that dot, and I'm pressing all the buttons. I actually thought for the longest time that what worked was pressing R1 and the joystick. But you actually just got to do the joystick, so... I actually had Aiden open the safe after messing with the cameras, but I saw someone else do it and they controlled the Sheik, so it is interesting that there's other ways you can handle that. And on the party, oh, those teenagers were horrible. I was the nice girl. I didn't drink or make out with the boy or do weed or whatever. I was generally pretty honest with Matt, but I hid my powers from everyone because that just seems like a bad idea. The bullying did seem a little bit extreme, but it does happen, unfortunately. Despite generally picking the nice girl choices, I let Aiden loose. I did not burn the house down. I knew that was a thing you could do, but I did just about everything else. I didn't stab Matt, but that's because I didn't realize I could stab Matt. I would have stabbed Matt. I didn't want to kill or seriously wound any of the children, but I did want to send a message. Because I was actually bullied pretty badly in school. And, like, it can have a lot of long-lasting damage. So it's like, I wanted to send a message to these kids. Like, you guys don't do this again. Don't hurt anyone else ever again. I don't know if what I did actually changed. I kind of wish they followed up on these kids. Like, did we traumatize them? Did they stop being bullies? So, first interview... There's not really much to say about that chapter. There were too many chapters that were super short and just not at all informative. Welcome to the CIA. I hated this chapter. Because it's like... You know, we as the player don't know at this point, but I knew that she had been forced into this. And it's just, it's so horrible, like, seeing this young girl being forced into military training. Like, I could rant on it forever. I hate it so much. Plus, I found this part really difficult. This was the first time I ran into a motion control you couldn't skip. So I was just stuck on the monkey bars forever and thought I would have to stop playing the game. And I failed so many times at that freaking stealth mission at the end. I still wasn't doing stealth right until way late in the game. I think the very last stretch where you had to use it was when I finally figured that out. Hunted was another chapter I did not really like, partly, again, because of motion controls, and because I had to switch to the iPad. Running through that forest with the iPad controls was so horrible. I'm surprised I didn't get caught earlier, and I did mess up the hold QTE. The hold QTEs were kind of hard sometimes too, because you could never quite tell when it was like counting that you had held the button. So I did end up getting caught, but of course escaped. Imaginary friend, and yet another unexpected motion control QTE where I sat on a slide and yeah. So I had to restart, and then I restarted and just didn't do the slide, but then needed motion controls to get over the fence. Ugh. And Jody's adoptive father is kind of a jerk. Like, do you feel no love for your daughter at all? It mostly just bothers me that he was, like, about to hit her. Like, I feel like they should have shown more scenes with the parents, like, prior to this. Because it ended up feeling like we needed to see more lead up to why her father felt that way about her. Like, what had happened before this? I also think that Aiden probably ages alongside Jody, because his behavior with, like, the dolls and knocking them over is such, like, a 8-year-old boy thing to do. Homeless was a pain just because of that freaking healing thing. I actually had to restart part of this one. Well, I didn't have to restart it, but, like, I just exited out and restored and re-went in because it hadn't, like, saved yet, but because I knew you could help the homeless people, but I couldn't figure out how to trigger it for any of them. I was able to trigger it for Stan. I wanted to trigger it for everybody. First night. What was first night? I guess that's just the night where we're sleeping and the entities attack us. Seeing Aiden fight the entities was pretty cool. But, that was another, like, really short one. And it took them so long to get in that freaking room. Like, what were you guys even doing? Also, kind of a random aside, but I thought it was weird that they never had, like, Jody go live with, like, Dawkins or something. Because, like, they could have given her a more normal life or something. I guess with the entities, maybe they couldn't have. But, like, once the entity attacks stopped being more frequent, they could have done that. I wonder why the entity attacks became less frequent. Was it because Aiden learned how to fight back? Like other girls, I don't know how old Jody is supposed to be. I think she's like 15 or 16. I would not have wanted to go out to a bar at that age. I did think Nathan's attitude was kind of horrible, though. Like I can understand not wanting her to go, because, again, her age, it's a bar, it's super late at night, but saying that she can't go out just because she's different, like, you can't keep her locked up in a room for her whole life, so I can understand why she's angry. I left the bar pretty much right away. Again, this was another one where I knew what would happen, but, like, that would have been my choice. I do think it's weird that there's no option to call her so-called friends. I wonder why they didn't show up, but, oh, I like her goth look in this episode, too. It looks kind of cool. Like, her punk goth look, whatever. I guess it's more punk than goth, but... So, I am kind of annoyed that the leaving the bar option is kind of hidden. Like, I don't think most people would realize you could just leave. Because that is what I would do in the scenario, like, even without knowing what can happen. Although, even though it ends up traumatizing Jody, like, maybe it is for the best that happens, because it does lead to the guys dying. Because if you just leave, they're still there to keep hurting people, which is kind of a horrifying thought, you know? And then alone, I think alone is when the parents leave. Dad does seem to care a little bit, just a little. I didn't attack him, because, like, I'm not that kind of person. I don't want our mom to hate us. Kind of a bummer we could never really catch up with them, too. Like, I kind of wonder what happened. Did they ever miss us? Oh, that was another chapter that was way too short. And then we have Navajo. I actually did kind of like this chapter. I thought it was pretty cool near the end, where we're all, like, doing that ritual. This was a chapter I actually restarted the whole thing because I failed to save Paul. Like, I wanted to save him and heal him the minute he was injured, and I'm just like, give me the chance. But then I didn't realize that they did, like when they let us have control later on, so I didn't end up doing that. And it was a shame to have to recomplete that chapter because there's a lot of dialogue in it, and trying to ride that freaking horse. I was looking for that stupid tree for like 20 minutes because it's like, oh, find the forked tree. All these trees look forked to me. Ugh. So, And then we have Separation is one of my least favorite chapters for obvious reasons. Like, my poor Jody crying while she's packing all her belongings. I took everything I could. Even the photo of the old parents. Kind of surprised we still have that. Still, I never quite understood why we have to go with Ryan. Like, I have Aiden, can't I just knock him out and run? Like, I wish that had been an option. That's one of the reasons why having this story told through flashbacks does not really work. Because, like, realistically, I should not have had to do this. Like, even if you get caught and dragged there later on, like, I still would have liked the option to try and resist more. And then the dinner is just a weird chapter because, like, we have not seen any reason for Jody to be in love with Ryan. And we have, like, she's in love with him, but we're the player controlling her and making choices on her behalf. And it's like, well, I don't want to be with him. It was so awkward. And I turned down anything happening, and then he just leaves. Even though I don't think this was actually, like, an official date. Wasn't this just supposed to be two friends hanging out? Like, because she doesn't even know he's not married. So the fact that, you refuse to kiss him and he just leaves. And I've seen that, like, if you guys do try and start something and she breaks down because of what happens in the Like Other Girls chapter where she was attacked, like, he just leaves her there crying and traumatized. And it's like, wow. Then we have Night Session. I think Night Session is the one where you see the ghosts. I knew about this part too, but kind of freaky, but also way too short. I feel there could have been more of a lead up here. We could have seen more of Dawkins with his family. And then we got The Mission. The mission was frustrating because I could never quite tell where I was supposed to go. Also, what is with this game sending agents out on missions where they don't know the language? Like, I'm not knowledgeable about the CIA, but I feel like if you're going to send an agent on a mission in a foreign country, they would be required to know the language, or at least have a companion that knows the language, or have a radio contact back to base with someone who knows the language. Like, it just felt like this was a weak moment to make it so she couldn't communicate with anyone, but like, it felt really strange. Because it happens again later, too, where she's sent to, like, China or something and does not apparently know Chinese. Or if she does, she ain't telling us. And then we got Old Friends. This is some nice backgrounds in this picture. I love the autumny backgrounds where we get reunited with Cole. And I wanted to tell him all about the trauma I endured at the CIA, but I didn't get a choice. This chapter actually lasted more than it should have. Like, I don't know what happened after this, where I feel like we stopped seeing the chapter screen. Because I went through Nora without the next chapter, without ever even getting an introduction for it. I think the same could be said for Briefing. I think the only reason I got the Briefing one was because I reloaded for some reason. I forget why. I think it was just because I ended the game so I could go to sleep. But so in Nora, we meet our mother. And I think what the DPA did to her is seriously messed up. They basically kept her in a permanent coma because they didn't want her to become a ghost and be able to attack them. And I don't understand this at all. Because, like, the whole reason they put her into the coma is because she was crying for her baby after they took her away. I guess she agreed to, like, kind of give the baby up for adoption so the organization could take care of her. But, like, I don't think her asking for her baby was that big of a deal. Like, you could have just let her raise the kid. Especially since that was their whole thing, was they were going to raise the kid, let the kid, like, have a normal home. So, although, when you think about it, why wouldn't they have, like, a fake normal home where they were watching her 24/7? Like, you'd think that they would do that instead, so they could just, like, know, instead of just giving her to unrelated people off the base. And then, like, by keeping Nora in a coma, you've lost a confirmed psychic. And, like, you do realize she's gonna die eventually no matter what you do. And I'd imagine after, 80-some years in a coma, she'd probably be pretty ticked. I think I would be destroying everything in sight. But, so, and then we have a Briefing. They're forcing us to go on another mission, and they're gonna totally let us go if we do it, and they're not gonna let us go, and we have to see Ryan again, and I'm not, because they stopped showing us the chapter things, I'm not entirely sure when this ends, this chapter. There was a part in the snow that I hated where it's like, Aiden, find us a house. And it's like, I can't see anything. I keep getting turned around. The weird limits on how far Aiden can go keep changing. Also, this chapter makes me increasingly appreciate how nasty people are to Aiden. Like, I know sometimes he can be a pain, but it's like, Aiden, find us a house. Aiden, we're freezing. Hurry it up, Aiden. Do this, Aiden. And it's like, you know, would a thank you kill you? Like, seriously. Would a please kill you? Like, she just bosses Aiden around. Aiden doesn't even have a body. And Aiden is just forced to do all this stuff. Also, Aiden's driving skills are crazy. That's a bit not really related to this, but you gotta throw it out. Dragon's hideout. I did not talk, and I let Ryan get tortured. Partly because I don't like Ryan, but he did also tell us not to say anything. I don't know if I'd be able to do that in real life. I don't know that I'm that mean, but they were also gonna kill us when we told them what they wanted to know, so probably better not to say anything. It was cool being Aiden on our own with no limits for once, although we did still have weird limits where it wouldn't let us go too far, even though we weren't tethered to Jody. I'm not really sure what happened in that scene. I did like when we were setting the bombs, and we actually got to, it showed us where the next bomb would go, like we were automatically facing that direction. That was helpful. I never would have got those bombs set otherwise. And then we got hauntings where we channel Dawkins' wife and daughter for him to speak to. Jody's face looks so freaked out. That was another scene that was way too short. It was like 2 seconds. And then we got Black Sun. Though Jody has successfully completed the mission, the CIA plans to do to her what they did to her mother. Which, again, is super messed up. And still stupid, I think. But I guess it makes slightly more sense because she's capable of way more destructive stuff and has threatened them. I did like playing as Aiden and trying to tell Ryan and Cool that something was wrong. Although, seriously, what's wrong with the security in this place? Like, no one seems to be aware of anything that's happening in so many of these places where it's like, there should really be cameras here. It was the same thing I was thinking in, like, the Asian base, where it was like, why are there no cameras? Does no one see us killing all these people? Also, I almost forgot to mention the whole thing where we have an Asian guy on our little military team, and we're like, no, you wait here while we infiltrate the Asian base. And it's like, that's so stupid. Why would we not take him with us? Like, he could potentially pass for one of the crew. Neither of us can, especially Ryan. It just seems silly. But anyway. So, back to Black Sun. We saved Jody. I actually thought there were some really cool moments in this chapter. I did save Cool, by the way. It took forever, but I saved him. But we managed to, you know, talk Dawkins down. I still think his whole thing was a little too rushed. More build-up would have been nice. It was kind of emotional seeing him reunited with his family. I did think there were a lot of really good emotional moments, like her learning who Aiden was and seeing him kind of directly for the first time. And the whole part where you're walking through the weird sand tunnel thing and seeing all the flashes from her life. And, like, there were just a lot of really cool moments. So I chose to live. There's not really any reason to choose the beyond. Like, you'll get there eventually. So, you know, might as well wait. It sucked that we lost Aiden. Also, it sucks that Ryan forced a kiss on us. Like, excuse you. Where's my slap him option? Glass him. So, then we get the chapter where we basically learn what the heck happened. And that's that her memories have been a mess because she was in the other world for too long. And she's been spending all this time getting them back together, which I still don't think the way that they told the memories quite works in terms of a cohesive story. When we got to choose where to go, I chose to go with the homeless people because they were always so nice to us. And it's like, I didn't really feel particularly attached to Jay, and I don't think I would want to live on a ranch. Like, I value my Wi-Fi and all that. And of course I'm not picking Ryan. And there's no reason to be alone. So I went to stay with the homeless people. The only sad thing about that ending is that you don't get any confirmation that Aiden is still around, and he has that in all the other living endings. So I don't know why he doesn't here. I heard someone say that they just forgot to put that scene in, so maybe that's it, but like, it would suck if he's completely gone. I do think the kind of epilogue thing set in the future where we have to fight the Infraworld looks kind of interesting. Probably never going to get a game on that, but maybe that's for the best. Like, I feel like it would be way too actiony. I also hate the idea that the government is messing around with, like, the other world and, like, spirits and trying to force spirits to be attached to bodies. Like, it's not a good idea. So, that's what happened on my playthrough. That's my thoughts on everything. I did not do the Advanced Experiments DLC. I was, like, kind of considering downloading it. I'm not sure if it has any story content. It mostly just seems to be messing around as Jodie and Aiden. But it costs money. It's like $4.99. That's not super expensive, but like, I had kind of had enough of this game, gameplay-wise. Like, I wonder if this game would have been better if it didn't have any gameplay, and it was just like 99%, like, just talking. Like, it was close to just being talking, but... So, anyway, that's my thoughts on Beyond Two Souls. Did you play it? Did you like it? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. So... Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!